Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Govin Parel. I'm the Dean of the Patel College of Global Sustainability. I'm delighted to welcome you to the Patel College of Global Sustainability Speaker Series. This is the second event in this series. We had one last week, a very successful one last week. Today, I'm delighted to welcome one of our own, in the sense that Maria Watson, our speaker today, graduated in 2011 in our inaugural class of 2011 with an MA in Global Sustainability. Maria is currently the Director for Facilities and Sustainability for Pall Corporation, based out of Newport Richey, Florida, not very far from here. Maria is also the Vice President of the Tampa chapter of the Association of Energy Engineers, and she has obtained certificates in CEM, Certified Energy Manager, and also in certification Sustainability Professionals. Maria will tell more about her background in a moment. She began her career as a global sustainability intern at Bausch & Lomb and has now acquired a decade of EHS and sustainability experience covering pharmaceuticals, medical devices, consumer goods, and contract manufacturing. Maria joined Pall Corporation in January 2019, where she is responsible for building the sustainability framework for the organization and has developed operational energy and waste efficiency policies, training, and tools. And she was able to reduce the greenhouse gas emissions for the company drastically. She will say more about all those things. Prior to that, Maria worked for Jabil Corporation, another major company in our area, as a global sustainability and EHS expert. Maria, without further ado, welcome to the Sustainability Speaker Series, presented for about 35 to 40 minutes. And after that, we'll have a Q&A. And in between, if students have some questions, they can always ask the question. So Maria, without further ado, welcome.
Well, thank you so much, Dean Periel. It's so exciting to be here. And good evening, Bulls. Thank you for this opportunity to chat about sustainability. It's not very often that you get to do that at your alma mater. It does seem like just yesterday that I graduated, so it's very cool to be back here about 10 years later to share what I've learned through sustainability and the EHS world with you guys. For those of you that are not familiar with Pall Corporation, we are an industry leader in filtration products. We serve a wide array of industries. Our business model is unique in the fact that we actually have an entire business unit that's dedicated to the filter manufacturing material. So the paper that goes inside the filter, we make that, and then we ship it out to the business units that then assemble it into the filters that need it. Our business units are split between two major areas. Life Sciences serves customers in biotech, pharmaceutical, medical, and food and beverages. And then our Industrial business unit serves microelectronics, aerospace, power generation, fuels, chemical, and automotive industries. So very diverse organization, and that's really serving us very well during COVID-19, where you have this dip in the aerospace industry, but then you have a large jump in the biotech. So Pall Corporation is an indirect subsidiary of Danaher Corporation. If you're not familiar with Danaher, they're a large holding company. They own somewhere in the region of 30 smaller companies. Danaher has recently committed to sustainability, and primarily that's driving from investors, but also customers and employees. And Danaher are in the process of setting some sustainability goals, but they have made the commitment of producing an annual sustainability report. The interesting thing to note here is that Pall accounts for about 40% of Danaher. We are the largest operating company, so there is a real strategic push from Pall leadership to make sure that we're ahead of the game in the area because we have the largest impact. So Danaher have divided their sustainability report into four main areas. As you can see here, it goes between innovation, environment, people, and foundational elements. For the purposes of this presentation, I'm going to delve a little bit deeper into the environmental side of the sustainability report. Paul also, we don't have our own sustainability report. We report through Danaher. However, we do report publicly to our customers via CDP. We also report via EcoVadis and EcoDesk. And this year, we are very excited to announce that we published our very first public CDP report with public goals in there. And at Pall Corporation, I've broken environmental sustainability into 6 subcategories. In the interest of time, you can see here that, I look at greenhouse gases, waste, water, employee engagement, customer partnerships, and advanced maturity. But in the interest of time, I'm really going to keep this focused on greenhouse gas emissions. I'm definitely happy at the end of this presentation to kind of go into any of the other topics. If you guys have questions, please use them in the chat. So in 2019, Paul piloted our first Danaher Business System Toolkit that's designed for energy reduction. I was part of building that toolkit, so I feel very passionate and excited to share this with you guys. But the toolkit really involves a deep dive over 12 weeks of pre-work, and we look into the energy use categories at our manufacturing sites. And as we take that 12 weeks and we learn more about the systems and the processes that are using the electricity or gas at the sites, the hours that they're used and the purposes of their use, we find opportunities for savings throughout asking questions and probing, those different areas. And after we've identified those opportunities, we come together during a 1-week Kaizen event to execute and implement the changes. So you can see here, we had 3 events in 2019. One of our sites in the UK, our Ilfracombe site, identified 6 heat exchanger opportunities that actually saved 65% on their natural gas usage. Our site in Timonium, Maryland, identified enough compressor air efficiencies that allowed us to shut off an entire air compressor and ended up with a total of 25% savings on their electricity statements. And then our other site in Portsmouth in the UK implemented a visual shutdown system. Now, in manufacturing facilities, there's lots of heavy equipment and machinery, and often employees aren't sure whether it's safe to shut things off. So they implemented this visual shutdown system that let the employees know that, hey, at the end of your shift, it's safe to shut that off. And from that, they've saved 13% in their electricity. So just from those 3 events in 2019, we were able to obtain an absolute CO2 emission reduction by 1.5%. And I know this doesn't sound like a lot, but from 3 events and our first year of execution, absolute reduction of 1.5% is huge. Then we have to take into consideration how much the company grew. So we actually grew by about 7% or 6.5% in 2019. So we factor that 6.5% growth, we're increasing more, we're producing more product, we're using more energy to produce that extra product, and we normalize it to our revenue. It was an intensity reduction of about 7.5% CO2 for that first year, which is fantastic. I'm so excited by that opportunity. And this year, so far, we've done 6 energy events and 3 waste events. So we're going to get even greater savings this year that I'm very excited about. And then, as all things, there's always a spanner that gets thrown in the works. COVID-19 hit, and that started affecting us late February, early March. And it really meant a new normal. And for me, this is just such an upheaval because I was spending about 50% of my time on the road. So my new normal is working from home. I can't travel. I was homeschooling my kids. They just went back to school August 24th. All of my meetings were being rescheduled because people weren't able to attend because they're spending extra time in these COVID-19 preparation meetings. My Kaizens are being rescheduled because we didn't know how to do Kaizen if we couldn't travel to the site. And then also there's capital funds that are being reallocated away from COVID-19 to focus on making sure that the sites have enough personal protective equipment and enough alcohol for cleaning purposes. We also had some projects that had to get rescheduled because we couldn't get contractors out to our sites to implement some of the things that we had planned to implement for energy reduction. And of course, my world is now 100% WebEx or Microsoft Teams. That's just me. Now for my sites, it's a very different story. Our manufacturing locations also had a new normal. They're socially distancing, which meant they're wearing masks in the workplace. So they're throwing away more items at work. Some sites are doing working from home where it's possible. And then some of our sites actually added shifts so that they could increase that social distancing. They're trying to manufacture and make the same amount of product, but keeping their people separate. So they had to add a third shift or a second shift in order to meet that production requirement. They're also increasing their cleaning frequencies. So some of our sites are moving from 2 times cleaning per day to 6 times cleaning per day. So that's showing me an increase in waste, an increase in chemical use, and also an increase in hazardous waste as they're using harsher chemicals to clean. And then in terms of employee safety, so obviously the employees are washing their hands more, so there's an increase in water use. But also the decision was made that it really wasn't safe for the employees to refill their water bottles at the faucets in case their mouth from the bottle touch the water refill station. So there's an increase in our purchase of plastic water bottles. There's also an increase in our purchase of single-use plastic in our cafeteria because we don't want to rewash silverware that might be contaminated and spread the virus further. And then in addition to that, there's emergency response meetings that are taking up 2 to 4 hours a day of preparation and response for COVID-19. So definitely a new normal all around, but I mean, you can see my thoughts as a director of sustainability. Everything that we've been doing over the last year is now being eradicated, and we're changing people's minds and saying, you know, we didn't want to use plastic, but now we want to use it because we want to keep you safe. So I thought we have to get ahead of this. We have to get in. We have to make sure that we're reaching these sites during this pandemic and still sending that message. Your safety is important, but the environment's still also important. So I decided to make a hypothesis on which sites I should focus on. I knew I had to engage the sites with a virtual Kaizen, and I had to combat that increase in energy waste and water. So what I did to try and figure out what sites to target was rate their COVID-19 response. So with a small COVID-19 response, I knew that they were using masks, social distancing, cleaning, and hand washing. But with that increased COVID-19 response, I'm seeing 2 different things there. So they're either doing a work from home or they're increasing their shift. So I started to put that on a quadrant. And my hypothesis is that the major manufacturing sites are going to have the highest level site emissions. And I'm thinking because these are the sites with the largest employee populations, they're going to be increasing their social distancing and increasing their shift changes because they have the most employees. And then I hypothesized that the minor manufacturing sites, while they were still statistically significant to my greenhouse gas emissions, it wouldn't have as big an impact because they're not increasing those shifts. So when I put that on a quadrant, my hypothesis was what I thought was my major manufacturing sites were going to be in my top right quadrant. Bingo, right? This is where I'm going to get the biggest bang for my buck. I'm going to be able to change everybody's minds and make sure that we're not increasing our energy use as much as what we potentially could be. Minor manufacturing sites fell on the lower side, and then I have some major admin and lab sites. And what I thought with those sites is these are the sites that are sending people to work from home. This is maybe an opportunity that I want to capture. We're lowering our electricity statements because we're not using as much energy at these sites. So I probably want to try and capture this and report it out on our sustainability report as in savings, how much we were able to save during COVID-19. And then our minor admin and lab sites were ones that they're actually so statistically insignificant to my emissions that they're not even reporting in my system. But there might be an opportunity to pull on those people to help me with the other groups, or at least try and communicate to them to share the messages with them. However, life is not always as it appears, as I'm learning, the more time I spend in sustainability. So upon reaching out to my major manufacturing sites, I was getting dial toned. They were not answering the phone. No one was interested in having a Kaizen focus on sustainability. And it actually took some time, some prodding, problem solving, really trying to understand the issues. But here's what I learned. So my major manufacturing sites are highly automated. They have a high population of employees, but most of the equipment there is automated equipment. And they're actually lean. They have the high population, but they have exactly what they need to get the job done. And also, they're already working 24/7, which I didn't take into consideration, or I didn't have that knowledge beforehand. in addition to that, a sick workforce for that site, for those major manufacturing sites, are going to statistically impact production. That's going to be a major issue for them if they have more than 3 or 4 employees that get COVID-19. So they were highly focused on case management with no patience for sustainability. They didn't want to hear from me. But given that information, knowing that they cannot increase their schedules, I actually shifted them. My major manufacturing sites did not have the COVID-19 response that I initially thought. My minor manufacturing sites were my biotech or media sites that were actually increasing production to produce breathing filters for hospitals, for ventilators. So they were not only increasing production and then also increasing shifts for social distancing, but also for production reasons. And then they also had some of their employees that were working at home, and those people that are working at home are really struggling. They feel disconnected from the site. They're not having coffee breaks. They're not getting their walk around the lake out at lunchtime. So really kind of felt disconnected and really struggling with that. And then my major lab and admin sites, as I mentioned earlier, they don't really affect my greenhouse gas emissions, but they did have a large admin and traveling workforce that were now working from home. So I thought, this is something that we can really tap into for our CDP report. And then my minor lab and admin sites, again, not really statistically affecting things, but they're hearing about changes and they're seeing changes on our town halls, on our intranet, and they're interested. They're always, trying to pay attention to what's going on. So these are a good group that I can communicate with and involve in my opportunities in Kaizen events. So with that being said, my strategy for my minor manufacturing sites was that I had to schedule these virtual energy Kaizen events. And I wanted to tap into those working from home people to help them feel as though they were still part of the facility, and then also feel as though they were contributing to the company during COVID-19 when they were being forced to work from home. My major manufacturing sites that didn't want to hear about sustainability and had no time for me already had items that were in their planned capital. So what we did was actually look at what's in their planned capital and where can we optimize the energy use for that equipment. And I'll delve into that a little bit more in a second. So we're going to capture the energy savings from what they're already planning in their capital procurement processes. And then again, capturing those work from home emission savings from those major manufacturing sites and developing an internal corporate communication strategy for the other folks that are interested in participating and working from home. So once I had developed this strategy on how I was going to move forward with scheduling these virtual energy Kaizens, there was a lot of questions. We had gone from this boots on the ground, we're going to the site, we're spending a full week at Gemba, we're getting intimate with the data, to everything has to be done virtually with very few people on site. Traditionally, day one of the 4E energy management event was 8 hours of training. So I had to then think about how do I keep the attention of this group of adults online for 8 hours a day. And then day 3 or 4 of the energy event is on the factory floor. So I had to then think through, okay, how do we do this virtually? What tools do we have that we can get through this? And then day 5 of the Kaizen event is coordinating those lessons learned and getting together as a team and reporting it out to leadership. So I had to think through all those things using the tool sets that I had. We were able to find some external tool sets that we used on websites that have flip charts and things like that so that we could drag some ideas around. But primarily we used the Microsoft Office toolkit. I decided for day 1 of the training, you know what, I'm going to record the training and I'm going to ask them to do this as part of their pre-work event. They can put it into bite-sized pieces and watch an hour of training a week until the event, or an hour of training a day until the event occurs. So that helped me minimize my time requirements of them online and also maximize their attention span into smaller bite-sized pieces. And then on the virtual settings, we have lots of virtual meetings. We're learning that cell phones and Microsoft Teams is such a great tool. I've had about 6 virtual tours of factories. We are learning that headsets are a must because when you're out on the factory floor and there's a lot of noise, you kind of have to have that headset to be able to hear what people are saying and be able to answer questions. And then again, using the other tools such as PowerPoint and the Microsoft Teams to communicate to leadership on the report out. And then for the other group, I wanted to talk about a little bit about the capital investment process. So a lot of companies just kind of take it for granted that, you know, these salespeople come in and they say, oh, if you buy this piece of equipment from me, you're going to save X amount of dollars because you're going to save this amount of energy. So I wanted to delve a little bit further into that process for those sites that already had planned capital in the works. We had already rolled out an energy management policy and an energy management standard work that told everyone, you know, you should be looking for the highest efficiency equipment, the highest efficiency water energy equipment, and, you know, roofs with high R values, we had already given them that standard work. But what I decided to do here was really partner with my strategic sourcing group. So we gave them an extra worksheet that helped them use our own methodology to calculate what the kilowatt hour savings would be. Did someone have a question? Okay, I'll continue. So yeah, we were working with that group to use our own calculations to make sure that we have the right kilowatt hour savings in there. And of course, if we have a kilowatt hour total, we're able to translate that out into CO2 savings as well. So that's how we're capturing that. And then the important thing there was training and communication, of course. And then the last thing that we wanted to make sure that we had solid was our corporate communication strategy. So how do we reach everyone across the board? So we did partner, we have an internal charitable giving group. We partnered with our internal corporate communications group. So we publish, we have a corporate communications marketing communication plan, and we publish regular articles out to our intranet saying where we are in our sustainability journey. We leverage Yammer, we use Virgin Pulse. So I send out monthly challenges to everyone via Virgin Pulse. Hey, make sure you're walking to work today, or make sure that you're not printing this week, different things like that. I also write blogs for the company on a regular basis, making sure that everyone's still clued in on what's happening and what's changing in the markets. We do some lunch and learn webinars. We've started doing some employee awards that are really exciting, making sure that we're recognizing our associates for doing great waste reduction efforts. And then, of course, our sustainability report. So that's all the ways that we try and reach the employees. But so just to summarize there, some lessons that I have learned is that, you know, jumping to conclusions doesn't usually help you. Talk with the site leaders, talk with the people that are really in the situation, and make sure that you understand what's really going on there. Sustainability is not a one size fits all. What's going to work for your minor manufacturing sites is most definitely not going to work for your major manufacturing sites. Of course, everything needs to have employee safety in mind. We can never take that focus away, but just keeping iteration that sustainability is still important is very important for the employees to hear. And then leveraging as many tools and leaders and within the organization as you can really make that effective. So before I jump into questions, I did want to share with you guys, I have a position open. I am currently hiring. We are looking for a position that has a terrible title. I will apologize right now, but this is the best that I could get at a short notice. It's an EHS customer support coordinator. I have the link here. I'm going to post it into the chat. But this position would be directly reporting to me, and it would be working through all these things that I already spoke about. So going out, doing the Kaizen events, working with sites on pre-work, and then also making sure that we're communicating to our customers and developing that branded messaging that we're looking to do with our customers. Let me post that into the chat, and while I'm doing that, I guess I can open the floor for some questions.
All right, wonderful. Thanks, Maria. I'm sure that students will be thinking about the questions. Before that, let me just ask you to let the students know how you have transitioned yourself from the academic. I mean, I have some questions about your presentation. I will come back to that later. From a student, because we invited you to give this talk also to give our students how they can think in terms of becoming a sustainability professional. So I'm sure that you would have some valuable advice and as to how they should go about it. You just posted the job that you have right now. I'm sure many of our students might be interested in looking at that. So it's not just you start out and become the expert, but you have to go through the process. It is a long process. Sometimes it is not easy. So could you just elaborate on that?
Yeah, of course. So you alluded to this in the beginning. My first opportunity was an internship in sustainability, and it was at a time where I was working on my master's degree, and I was also working at the vice president of the student council at the university. I had a young family, and I was faced with this opportunity of the internship, and I thought, if I don't do this, I don't feel like I'm ever going to get this experience or opportunity again. So it was something that I didn't take the decision lightly, and I knew it was going to overextend me, but it was the best decision that I made. Any experience that you can get in the actual field of sustainability while you're working on it is it's only going to drive the actual concepts that you're learning through the program home, and then jumping on those opportunities, jumping at or getting out to networking events. I think there's some green drink events that are happening. The Association of Energy Engineers Tampa chapter, getting out to those places and networking with those people and hearing and listening to the actual challenges that other companies and other individuals have is just a growth factor. You learn more and more as you get into the industry. But I will caveat this to say that what I am doing right now, I did not learn in my master's program. This is there's a lot of things that you have to do, think on your feet and be able to move quickly and react to different situations. And I've learned a lot.
Yeah, absolutely.
And made a lot of mistakes.
That's a very important point, that sometimes when we move on in our professional advancement, it might not be anything related to, not anything, but not much related to what you learned in class. It's something that you learn on the job. And it gives you the foundation, the confidence to go out and find the position you want. Yeah, that's wonderful.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, and what I really think, what I learned in the program was strategy. How do I develop a strategy for my company? And the strategy part is the easy, right? This is where we want to be in the end. But getting to the end is what I don't think I learned through the program. Is this, how do we get from A to B? And that's when you learn about emission factors and updating your electricity, and then delving into the other certifications like the Certified Energy Manager certifications where you're making the calculations. And the LEED certification certainly gives a lot of highlights in there as well.
Sure. We do provide that opportunity for our students, get a LEED certification.
That's great.
We do subsidize that as well.
So that's fantastic. So I was going to say, I think that was my most valuable class when I was at the university. Dr. Daniel Ye offered a class, and it was very focused on LEED and green buildings. And after taking his class, I thought, I'm going to go for this LEED certification. I've since let it expire, but that's where I learned the most to move into manufacturing operations, understanding that concept of how to have a green building and what to strive for, I think was a good step.
And also now that we offer courses such as Six Sigma certification or Six Sigma for sustainability, one of our own faculty members, that might be offering that. It's a very useful course for our students. It's a business-oriented course, but we focus more on sustainability projects. Our corporations manage the project related to sustainability. So, Kelly, are there any questions? Anything that you received? Hello?
Yes, thank you. I encourage our students, if you would like to put anything into the chat, any questions you might have, or raise your hand. And yes, I see Drew Murphy.
Yeah, there's one person by the name of DM here. Drew Murphy, yes, please ask your question.
Hi. So I have so when you talk to a new company, what is the biggest roadblock you face when you try to convince them, saying that if you go sustainable, you can improve your business model, your essentially you can make more profit. Sorry.
Yeah.
So what's the main thing that makes them tick and say, "I'll let you can consult us. What do we need to do?"
Yeah, so this actually just came up today. A lot of the manufacturing managers that I speak with or the site leaders don't want to entertain, because the Kaizen events require a lot of resources, and it explains 12-week process of pre-work, right? So that's taking like someone's salary because they're dedicating their time into researching this. So they are very hesitant in moving into that commitment. Unless there's a specific dollar amount associated with what they're going to gain on the back end of that. So our company, we have to promise, right? So I can promise you if we have this event, we'll find 12% efficiency savings within a 2-year ROI. And that's, if it's in their priorities to do that, they'll do it. Now, that's not to say it's always going to be that way. Danaher, explained, are setting these sustainability goals. So I feel that my company is going to start shifting towards, a carbon reduction goal. And I think site leaders are going to have to start meeting those goals. But right now it's capital. It's, how much money can you save me?
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Maria, I have a question. Have you worked in the business for 10 years now after graduation? I hear it from, not from companies per se, but some other academics, others out saying that corporations are worried about the term sustainability. They think that it is a money loser. It's a misperception. Of course, being sustainable means that you are saving on energy or other kind of resources that would improve your bottom line. So it is actually profitable for the corporation, sustainable. So how do we remove this misconception out there that being sustainable means something that corporations should not be thinking about? I know that is not the case with the corporations. They themselves are very sustainable. Almost all the corporations that I know have a program on sustainability, not necessarily because that's a responsibility, but they think that is the best way to make profit and also make a change in society. So how did you feel that? It's related to Drew's question.
Yeah, it's a very tough situation, right? I think this all stemmed from solar panels having this high 30-year return on investment that everyone's saying, why would we spend money on being sustainable? But the truth is, and I tell everyone this, sustainability is not a one size fits all, and you can be more sustainable by just turning things off when they're not in use. So that's my communication plan with my sites. With that being said, we are at some point, and I am communicating this to the site, at some point we are going to reach 100% efficiency. And there's going to be no low-hanging fruit left for us to pick off the tree. So we're going to have to start focusing on those longer term. Okay, let's look at a 5-year ROI. That needs to be acceptable in order to get those CO2 savings. But the great news is it's a culture shift, right? So I started building the momentum with the low-hanging fruit, the quick wins, the less than 2-year ROIs. And that will keep us going through the next 3 or 4 years until that culture starts to change. And then those more mature sites are starting to move into more mature technology to reduce their CO2 emissions. But it doesn't happen overnight. It's a long path.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Anyone else out there? See hand up. Now at Pall Corporation, you focused on many. When you said sustainability is multidimensional in how you achieve that, in efficiencies in operations. Sometimes it might not be quite visible, like the way that you can reduce your footprint in consumption, energy consumption. There can be other ways of organizational efficiency, which is related to some sustainability goal. So, or it could be in terms of training, how other people to do better in terms of a process. So it can be many things, not necessarily just related to solar energy efficiency and things of that sort. So could you just elaborate on that? And I'm sure that you have experienced that in the organization.
Yeah, so I like to talk about the employee engagement side of it because, research is showing that millennials that are coming into the workforce are looking at a company's sustainability strategy before they sign up and take a job at a company. So I think, I can't remember the exact statistics, I didn't bring them for this call, but it's something like, they're 70% more likely to take a position with a company and 40% more likely to stay with a company that has a strong sustainability plan. So the way I see it is I am meeting employee expectations and leveraging their help in the process. I'm getting them involved and making them feel as though they're part of something bigger and engaging them in the process, and training them. This is what sustainability, this is how to make changes throughout the organization. This is what you can do at home. And then, of course, like involving them in the awards ceremony and things like that. So employee engagement is a huge part of it, but not just employee engagement, customer engagement.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And that's what we're starting to see. Our customers are not only asking us to report on these things, they're asking to partner with us. Hey, you send us these pallets. Please, will you take them back and then reuse them and send them back to us? Why wouldn't we do this? It makes complete sense in every aspect of the world. However, we have some, people that are stuck in their routines and they're, oh no, it's a medical site. We can't have contamination coming back on the site. So there is a level of change management training that we have to kind of involve and, engage the entire organization into this new level of thinking and being the right thing to do for the environment, for our customers and for our employees. And kind of bringing it holistically all together as one and not just looking at the operational efficiency side of it, like you said.
Okay. All right. We will have a few more minutes to go. I urge us to don't be shy. Maria is here to answer any questions you have about your career aspirations, how to break into the field of sustainability or anything of that sort, or if not or relate to the presentation today. About Pall Corporation's work. I know that the COVID situation has added another layer to the sustainability puzzle. This, if we want to call it that way. Now, how is that corporations adapting? Because you have to have your operations there. The products that consumers expect to receive, or how do you do that with all these physical distancing requirements and other protocols that you have to follow? Is it a big stumbling block, or are you adapting?
Yeah, so I'm really not part of the COVID-19 response group, but this is not an easy task for that group to take on. There are many different rules, and the rules are changing, and we're constantly learning more and more about the virus. Where we can social distance, we will obviously social distance. Where we can't social distance, the mask requirement, like in clean room environments where they're small, the mask requirement is in place in those situations. All employees have temperature checks on the entrance to the facility. They all have to, sign declarations to say that they haven't traveled. And really, visitors are not allowed on site. I work for the company and I'm not allowed to go on site.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so it's tough.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. The companies are adapting, because that's what makes companies exciting to work. These challenges need to be met. They are not, even though it has impacted several sectors of our economy, and we do need to reopen our economy and society, because this can't go on. There's huge repercussions on not only just the health, but also the psychological aspects of people who are confined to places, and also the young people have lost opportunities, jobs and things like that. All right, I'm glad to see a person, Samantha.
Yes.
Yep.
Hi.
Yes,
Oh,
good. Thank you.
Sorry.
I'm sorry.
Should I go?
Yes.
Okay. Do you find that your employees engage with you more because of your blog and your letters and your like your employee the competitions and such with reducing waste?
It's hit or miss, to be honest. So it depends on, I'm seeing it depends on the geography of the employees. It depends on the technological savviness of the employees. And it also depends on the age of the employees, right? So the older employees that have been with the company for 25 plus years have seen, young whippersnappers come through and make changes, and they're like, okay, they nod. And then also the employees that are not plugged into the Yammer or the Virgin Pulse or the blogs, they don't really know who I am. But the ones that are, they know my name. When they see that I'm coming to do a Kaizen event, they sign up and they volunteer. And then also the European sites are extremely advanced in energy efficiency and waste minimization. They're so knowledgeable and they're really plugged in and engaged, and they want to do the right thing. Also, the ISO certified sites, so ISO 14001 or ISO 50001 certified sites, those employees are much more alerted to the changing markets and what's happening.
Maria, I think some of our students might be kind of shy because of to ask questions like ISO. They don't know what ISO means, for example, because we know in the field, some of these terms are familiar to us, but maybe for students, they want to explain what those terms
are. Yeah, so ISO certification is, it's a manufacturing facility, just like you might get certified in LEED. This is a manufacturing certification in environmental management systems. So it looks at compliance mostly, but then does also look at, what are you doing to better your impact on the environment.
Maria, we do have a couple of questions in the chat.
Oh, great. Okay.
For you. Sophia Baker says, have you noticed any COVID-19 protocols that have been implemented in your company that increase waste but don't have any impact on the spread of the disease, that seem to be implemented just to reduce, quote, employee panic?
So I have a two-part answer to this question. We would never implement something that would just reduce panic. We don't know enough about COVID-19 to take any risks with it. Employee safety has to be first and foremost. So if there's any concern that something might increase the spread of COVID-19, it immediately would get nixed in our facility. What I did notice is that some of our facilities in the very beginning stages of COVID-19 were disposing of their masks as biologically hazardous material, even when we didn't know if an associate had COVID-19 or not. So they just had, I don't know if you guys are all familiar, but lab bags, the big red bag, biohazard bag, and everybody was putting their masks into it. So we did see our waste costs spike. So that took a little bit of investigating to say, we don't really know if it's contaminated. We know that COVID-19 dies after a certain number of hours on contact. So maybe if we follow the World Health Organization guidelines, you tie the bag and you leave it in an area for 3 days, and then you can dispose of it as trash. So it did take some education there, but definitely not anything related to panic. I hope that answers your question, Thea.
Thank you, Maria. Our next question comes from Carmen, and she asks, do you have any advice for college students who would like to go into this field?
So yeah, I think that the dean and I had kind of touched on this a little bit. If you get an opportunity for an internship at a company, absolutely take that opportunity. If you get an opportunity to network in your local area, do that, because a lot of times it's it's what you know, or who you know in these situations. I would definitely try and get plugged into local chapters because they often know what positions are coming open or going to be posted. And then also networking with your fellow, the people that you're in your cohort with. They might know of positions that are opening in their business as well.
Okay. I see no more hands. I think there has been a hand that was there before. So I want to conclude this talk. I want to thank Maria for this wonderful opportunity that you gave us to hear about your work after you left the college, and then your your advice for students. And so I want to thank you. I hope that we can meet in person, perhaps later this year, or I don't know, for alumni events that you used to have, or the alumni dinner, but I don't think we can have it in December. But we will host it early next year or so.
Absolutely.
Campus. Thank you.
And thank you so much for the opportunity. This was very exciting for me.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you, Maria. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Maria.
Thanks, Linda. I see some familiar names in here. That's funny.
Oh, you do? Okay.
I do.
That's nice. All right. Thank you. I'll leave now.
Thanks, guys.